blessed Mercoladi moment as we gather here in the shrine at the first full week of May, preparing for the second Sunday of May, which is, of course, La Festa della Mamma, or delle Mamme. It's Mother's Day, so a blessed and truly holy Mother's Day to all the mothers and grandmothers, godmothers, who gather with us either through these wonderful meditations on Wednesdays or at the shrine of Our Lady of Pompeii, or wherever you may be. Blessed Mother's Day, this coming Sunday. And I'm wearing this great vestment made by Vincent Crosby, the Benedictine who makes vestments here for us at the shrine, which is the wonderful image of the Annunciation of Our Lady with the angel Gabriel. And on the back of this vestment is that wonderful image of Mary holding the child, our mother. During this month of Mary, we crowned her last week, and now we honor all mothers, and basically should crown all mothers with flowers or with stars, because they truly are our mothers, and there's nobody like your mother, my mother always would say. In fact, I wanted to crown my mother, and she didn't want it, because I said, Mom, let's crown you with flowers for when you die. You know, she says, that's what the nuns do. And that is true. The Carmelite nuns, when the sisters die, they crown them with flowers as a sign that they are now crowned by God for all the love that they showed as nuns. But I said, Ma, let's do that for you. We'll crown you with flowers. She says, no, I don't want to be crowned in the coffin. I'm not a nun. So I surprised her. It was Mother's Day, and I went home, and she was 90 years old. And she was retiring from playing the organ at the church, like our Jim Janessi here. But she played for like almost 40 years, the organ at our parish church. She said she wanted to do this because she wanted something to do. And she was making music beautifully at that parish, Mount Carmel in Schenectady, and for 40 years. Well, when she was 90, she decided that she was retiring a lot of things. And one of the things she wanted to do was retire from playing the organ. So it was Mother's Day that year, and I went home to celebrate Mother's Day. And I presided at Mass at Mount Carmel, where they were honoring her for nearly 40 years of service of music to the church. And so if you could picture it, Mount Carmel Church, Our Lady of Mount Carmel on one side of the wall and St. Anthony on the other side of the wall. And there was the altar in the middle, and there I am saying Mass. And at the end of Mass, the pastor comes out, and I announce that my mother is retiring, and everybody applauds and all of that. And so she's sitting there in the front pew, and the pastor is giving her a plaque. And I said to the pastor, before we give Mary the plaque. And then I had a friend of mine come out, a florist friend of mine come out with a beautiful kind of a hat box. And I opened up the hat box, and my mother was giving me a dirty look, and I winked at my mother. And I opened up the hat box, and there was a beautiful crown of gardenias and roses. And then she came up to get the plaque. We crowned Mary, and she smiled, and because she didn't want it at her funeral, so we didn't do it at her funeral, but we did it when she retired from 40 years of being a musician, and I crowned her, and she loved it. Actually, she just loved it, and I think this is something that maybe we got to do to our mothers, living or dead. Crown them today on Mother's Day for all the love that they've given us and the love they shared, and even if we have had difficult times, our mothers, because I know that there are some of us, our mothers are not as special as my mother was, and some of our mothers were very special, but sometimes, mothers have difficult times, and they're not always as special. And so we may not be able to crown them with the same affection that we crowned Mary on that day, on Mother's Day many years ago. But we can at least, I hope, crown them with gratitude for the generosity of giving birth. Because the experience of giving birth is actually the origin of the word generosity. So Josie at Mass for Mother's Day will sing that song that we all love, Mama. The Italian men all love this song, and we weep when we think about this. Solo per te la mia canzone vuole, mamma, sarai con me, tu non sarai più sola. That whole song about mothers. But it's from giving birth that we can be grateful, at least be grateful for the gift of life that we've received from our moms. And that word generosity actually comes from an origin in Greek, gune, which means woman. And we get gynecologist from it. So that the word generosity comes when we see a woman giving birth to a child, the extraordinary generosity of giving birth with one's whole body and soul and pain and energy, giving birth to a child. We can crown our mothers for the generosity that they've given us throughout the whole of life, but especially in giving birth. Now, I'm going to tell you a story that I've never told anybody before. My mother had a miscarriage before I was born, and I think she and my dad were hesitant about putting my mother through that because the child was pretty much formed, and she miscarried at her home. And it was a stillbirth. And I think they were hesitant. And my mother suffered a great deal. She told me this a few years before she died, that she struggled with getting pregnant again because of the fear of losing another child. And that was a horrible experience for her. But then she told me something which I think is made up. I think my mother made this up. She says, and I just want you to know, Richard, that when I did get pregnant with you, all I ate was Chinese food. I says, really? She says, yeah, I didn't dare eat Italian food like I did with my first pregnancy. So I ate Chinese food for you the whole time. And when you were born, she says, I saw you and you were born. And I thought you were Asian, she said, because an Asian nurse brought you in, and I thought you were Asian. And for the whole of my life, I thought I was adopted. I think I've shared this with you before. But the whole idea was that she says, but I want to tell you something else. I not only ate Chinese food with you, she says, but when you were born, and I think she made this up, when you were born, she said, I felt no pain. I says, Ma, you're hallucinating. You had to have pain. No. She says, when you were born, you just were born. She says, I had pain with your other two brothers later on, but I had no pain with you. So I don't know why she told me that. I don't know if it's true, but I'm glad that when I was born, the generosity of my mother didn't cause her any more pain than the miscarriage that she had the first time. It must have been the Chinese food. So happy Mother's Day to all of you. Buona festa delle mamme. And may Our Lady, the mother of our church, fill us and give us generous hearts like our mothers, so that men and women, the whole world, may become generous, so that we may all give birth to a new era in this world, a new era of peace and justice here in the United States and all over the planet, a new era of generosity that we may have learned from this pandemic, so that we all can bring this world to a new mothering of love on this Mother's Day and forever and ever. Amen. Happy Mother's Day.